that's not necessarily true. And they are the happiest mother and son pair that we have. We have two pairs. One, the mother just died, but the other one, they still come. And the second pair, the mother has a cancer now. It's going to be interesting to see. But they're always hugging and kissing each other, and they come and they're like a model for love, in our office. So, see, when you think of an object,
that doesn't mean that you should not seek for health, right? Health and happiness, they all fall on the same track. So being healthy is definitely a way towards being happy.
The same thing, when you're seeking for health over wealth, that does not mean don't seek for health either.
No, I agree.
Right. So it's just a relative. It's a relative thing. What is more important?
And
both the things are important.
It's not at one at the cost of other.
Exactly. It's not one or the other. Exactly. That's my point. Right. So, see, whatever you want to pursue, say you want to pursue samadhi, or you want to pursue health or happiness or wealth, whatever. But when you think of an object, your mind gets flooded with that object. You're constantly thinking of that object. And then when you think of void, the mind becomes void. So again, Shankaracharya is going back into the nihilistic theory of the Buddhism, because Buddhism negated everything that's around. Because they say it's constantly changing. All the material objects are being born and dying at the same time. There's a birth and death continuously going on. Even as we speak, we continuously exchange the molecules, the atoms come, atom go. So whatever we are constantly changing. So they say that the change is the only thing that is permanent. Everything else is impermanent. And once you negate all these things, that's where we are. And so they kind of negated the whole thing according to the nihilistic theory. But that's what Shankaracharya says, that if you, in your samadhi, if you negate the whole thing, and that there is nothing else, and then you're going to reach the void. And then it's not going to really leave you with a positive, joyful feeling. But if you think of Brahma, which is full of vitality and joy, that's the picture of Brahma that he has given to us. And then you become spontaneous, you become vital, very enlivened and joyful inside. So that's what you're aiming for in meditation, with that picture of Brahma. So mind becomes full of. So once the mind becomes full of that alone, then you pursue that object. The belief and your thoughts have a lot to do with what you really want to achieve. And again, we're going back on that Bruce Lipton's book, The Biology of Belief. And they found out that the nucleus of a cell, which contains your chromosomes and genes and all that, they used to believe that those are the messengers and those are the ones which are going to decide our fate in the life. But that's not true anymore. So they have found out that the outside influence, the environment, through the receptor proteins which are present on the cell wall, ultimately sends the signals to the genes, and it decides which genes to express and which genes not to express. So environment has a lot of effect, and that's what we call the epigenetics, and has a lot of effect. So whatever thoughts we do and whatever actions we do, including the surrounding environment, has a tremendous influence on what we do in our life. And out of all these signals that are coming from the environment, also it depends which signals we want to receive, which signals we don't want to receive. It's totally up to us. So again, it gives us the whole fate of our life in our hands. So that is the biology of belief. They had done an experiment in Italy. So there was a pregnant woman, and they made a fake fight between husband and wife. And they were doing an ultrasound on the baby at the same time, continuously. Every time.
So who was fighting? The person who was pregnant?
Husband and wife.
The person who was pregnant.
Yeah.
Well, they were part of the husband-wife fight was going on.
And the wife was pregnant.
Wife was pregnant, not the husband. Right. You got it? And they were doing ultrasound on the baby.
We are yet to find the technology.
There is.
Yeah, really?
There is, yeah.
So they were doing an ultrasound on the baby on a continuous real-time basis. And every time there were arguments and shouting, the baby would cringe and all that. So baby could not really see anything, and we think that baby is just another life that's hidden inside, but that's not true anymore. Whatever thought process the wife was going through, the mother was going through, was transcending, was bypassed through the chemicals and hormones and everything affecting the baby. So all those things are playing a major role. And then when there was a shattering of a glass, literally, was an extreme contractions that took place in the fetus's body. So from the moment the fetus is born, is being bathed by all the hormones which are circulating in the mother's body. That's why our ancient scriptures, they always, even before the mother gets pregnant, they said that even when the couple is thinking about trying to conceive and all that, they should start reading good books and things like that. So it creates the proper vibrations and ultimately affects the genes, which genes going to be expressed and all that. And after all thousands of years now, they are realizing now what kind of effect they can have, right?
Yeah, that's why it was like an Abhimanyu. Subhadra
Right.
was pregnant.
Exactly.
And he could only hear how to go in and not to come out in Chakravyuh.
Right.
And that's why he went in, but he couldn't come out.
Right.
See, our baby shower process is meant for that only.
Right.
Right? To give the proper vibration.
Of course.
It's late.
It's late. Yeah, you can do it even before that.
So it is the belief that's everything. So it depends upon what you believe in it. So if you really want to pursue the higher goals, you have to read, you have to take a journey into the higher level, and you have to have a satsang, hang out with the right people, read the right books, and ultimately you get propelled little by little by little. If you don't do any of this thing and then say, well, it doesn't take me anywhere, I'm getting frustrated, obviously the efforts are not there. But the suggestions that we're going to keep pouring ultimately take you into that. So outside suggestions have a very significant force, like we in the retreat, we already did that. Hold your arm. He says, if you say that your arm is made out of steel, it's going to behave like a steel. So the same way this guy in Biology of Belief, Bruce Lipton, when he was teaching in a med school in the Caribbean islands, and he had some back pain, and he went there to one of the chiropractic physician over there. He said, let me just adjust my back and this and that. But they really, chiropractors, they do a lot of things on the holistic side also. So he was talking about, he says, I'll show you. And they did the same experiment, holding there. He says, your name is Bruce. And they say, okay, I'm going to try again. Your name is Mary. And his arm started going down. It's again the power of suggestions, So outside influence has a lot of effect on your behavior. So there was a Chinese story I was reading, written by the Liu Tzu, was a great philosopher in China. He has written a lot of nice stories, but children's story kind of, but has a very profound effect, right? So there's this guy, he's born in a village and then he has moved to the big city. And then he has never been to his village for a long time. So one day his friend says, let's go back. Let's visit the old village for our nostalgic sake, So I said, okay, let's go. Because it's been such a long time. So on the way there was one village that comes in. And he says, his friends wanted to play a trick on him. He said, this is it. This is our village. Now, the guy has never been there for 15, 20 years. He doesn't even remember since he was a kid. So he said, this is the tree you used to play with, and then right under the tree you used to sit there. You used to play with your mother. This is the temple you used to worship. And the guy is like so much emotional, he starts crying and he becomes so emotional. And then he's, oh my God, this is so good, this and that and all that. And then his friend says, come on, enough is enough, right? Let's not play a trick anymore. So he says, no, this is not your true village. The true village is further down, right? So they say, okay, I'm sorry. So the guy feels like a fool. So he cried for nothing, right? And then he goes further, and then the true village comes in, and he said, this is the real village. And now he doesn't cry anymore. He doesn't get emotional anymore. So power of suggestion from outside, so whatever you believe in it can happen. So ultimately, that's where you want to go. So the idea of Brahma, if it sets in your head and that's what you want to pursue, ultimately you can be where you want to be. So those men, ultimately by going through this education, who reject and give up all this thing for the supreme idea of Brahma, ultimately purifies them, And then the people who don't do this, and they live an inferior life, according to Chinmaya. Because what is the difference between us and the animals? Animals also eat, hoard, transgress and pursue further, enhance their life and everything. But if there has to be a difference between the animals and us, then this is the only difference, really. So I'm going to read a paragraph by Chinmayanan. I cannot really describe the way he does. He's an amazing man. So they say that, he says, the glory of a human life consists not in eating and drinking, indulging and mating, procuring, possessing, acquiring, aggrandizing, marrying and begetting, but in realizing Brahma. All the other processes that we're doing, any animal can do that. But reaching Brahma, only we can do, right? So eating, mating, drinking are common to all the species. Greatness does not consist in merely doing this. The buffalo, the tiger and the donkey also do this. In what way are we better than these quadrupeds? Those who go through this pilgrimage of life, laying waste all their powers, faculties and abilities in earning, spending, acquiring and indulging, do not gain the true object of life. That anyone can do. So they lead then but an animal life. So they are living a life of an animal. So some say that they are serving others. Like whenever I say, they always try to rationalize, oh, I work so hard so my children can have a better life and my wife can have a better life and this and that. So we always create a purpose to and justify our actions, right? And we think that we are doing good things to the society and this and that. There's nothing wrong with that, but there has to be something more than that. So they say, if that is the case, then even the cattle serve us. The cow does so much for us. So the cow must be living a better life than we are living, right? So they say that the cow's dung acts as a disinfectant, because that's what they use in the villages, right? And also the manure, it acts as a manure. The milk, of course, gives us food. The physical existence, and then is exploited by us, and then turning out work for them. We make them work on the fields. They plow the fields for us. Their skin gives us shoes, and their bones fertilize the fields, and their meat fills the bellies of the human population. And when they die, their physical structure has a mineral value. When they are buried, more plants come out of it. But our physical structures are down to waste. We cannot even say that. We are burned back to ashes, So compared to that, so our human life has to have a better value. So pursuing a higher spiritual goal is a worthwhile thing doing it, right? So once you achieve this knowledge and reach to the state of Brahmahood, then they are the one who can lead other people. But the mere knowledge is just not enough. Talking about is not enough. Reading the books is not enough. But ultimately living this life of spirituality is the only way to do it. Because people don't want to know what you talk about, what you want to see, what you live like. That's what they become an example to everybody else. So in the first stage that you have to go through, you have to learn, listen, and then put it in a life, like Shravan, Manan, and Acharan. So Shravan is very important. You acquire this knowledge first, but then you brood over it. Then you have to do a constant Manan over it. And to really put it into your thought process, whether does it make any sense or not. And then ultimately you have to argue out every single situation. You got to start analyzing from spiritual point of view. And if you do that, then it will start making sense. And then, all these implications, until that step happens, it will not come into an action. So, but if you just read and then start putting into action, say, okay, well, somebody says that just bow down to the god and go to the temple. That's the brooding process, the manan has not happened. That's why all this becomes a mechanical thing. But if the brooding has taken place and then you do it, then it has a lot more meaning than, doing it. So first stage is to learn, listen from the sages, scriptures and the great teachers, and then put it together and absorb it in a mental complex. And the second stage is to make it a vritti. Like I said, this is also a vritti, because all our vrittis are always there and we are forced by them. But then little by little, this vritti comes in a center stage, and then it becomes a goal. And so bring this vritti in the forefront and then start practicing with faith and then devotion. And the third stage is to reach the Brahmahood by, then you have to go down fully. So again, like talking alone is not enough. So mere knowledge is not enough, but you have to put it in a practice and leave these ideas and under all the condition of stress, strain, and that's the time when you have to think of the spirituality even more, right? So now the next slok goes into a very nice discussion on cause and effect. We have talked this in the past. Say, cause is the consciousness and we are the effects. Because just like we say, the Big Bang, before 13.5 billion years back, there was nothing there. The universe came from a single spark. So there was something there before that. There was a tremendous amount of energy that exploded and created all this universe, right? So, in way you can say that whatever was there was the consciousness, and the consciousness was the cause, and the effect is the universe. So we all are the effects of the cause. But now, the cause is still part of the effect. The cause does not disappear. The cause can live by itself, but the effect cannot live by itself. Effect is the effect of the cause. That the cause has to be built into the effect. Like when the milk turns into yogurt, if you take the milk out of the yogurt, there is nothing left.
Yogurt,
So this same way, the consciousness is what created us. If the consciousness is out of us, then we are not there anymore. We are the crystals of Atma. So it's like a sugar solution. If there are sugar crystals and you take the sugar out, there is nothing left. So we are the effects. But so in the absence now, so effect is just the temporary stage of the cause. So in a way you can say that cause was there in one form and now cause is there in another form, but it's always the cause. So in that way you are really not saying that there has been any effect. So if you remove the effect, because the effect is what we all are in a material form, and to perceive that we need body, mind and intellect. But now we are transcending the intellect. We are transcending the mind. So we are living the life of a consciousness. At that level, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Everything that change has taken place is only at the mind level, right? So if you negate the effect, then there is only the cause. And the cause, without the effect, is not even the cause. Then it's a cause of what? When you say it's a cause of something, then you accepting the presence of the effect, right? So people who sublimate themselves at a very high level, what happens is for them, this world just does not exist. For them, it's nothing but consciousness. But that's a really high level of samadhi, where the effect is not even accepted. Whatever they see is consciousness. Whatever they perceive is consciousness. Whatever they talk about is consciousness. So at that level, nothing but consciousness exists. And it's not a cause of anything, because the effect, they are not ready to accept.
It is called causeless cause.
Causeless cause. But there is no other cause.
Causeless cause. That's Chinmayananji has described it.
Right. So they say it's like chicken and egg, right? So what came first, right? But when we say they both exist, because the chicken exists in the egg and the egg exists in the chicken, right? It's a simultaneous process. So you cannot really say that one or the other. They have a simultaneous existence. So when the consciousness became the universe, the consciousness did not go away anywhere. It's still there. So in other words, it's just the shape. The shapes are changing. It's the state of consciousness that has been transforming inside within itself, but by its own ability to perceive itself. That's about it. But the consciousness has always remained as a consciousness. So that cause and effect thing is it's like a gold. If you make an ornament out of the gold is still gold. Gold was there before. It's part of the ornament, and when the ornament is going to be destroyed, it's going to be still the gold. The same way the God created us, but the God is part of us. Every single one of us, we are gods. We are it's like, if it's a mango tree, what is going to produce? Mangoes. So if the Brahma is the tree, what are they going to produce? Brahmas. So we are all Brahmas. We just don't realize it. The only reason we don't realize it, for our mind and the body and everything is so important that we cannot transcend, we cannot come out of that. It's that magic that is being played in front of us. We just cannot come out of it, so we don't realize it. That's why.
It's because of the vrittis.
Vrittis, because of the vrittis.
So ultimate goal is to get rid of the vrittis.
Get rid of the vrittis. Vrittis are thoughts, and you become thoughtless, so all vrittis disappear. And in the beginning, it is only during the part of meditation. But then it starts spilling. It becomes, once you start realizing it, then it starts spilling into your day-to-day life. And then there are people who are in samadhi all the time. And then that's
See,
what Bhagwan Buddha said.
When you were initiated, you know what we started? Sitting quietly means? You see, it is also focused on thoughts.
Right.
Yes.
Do not follow. Do not first. Do not reject. Do not follow. It all starts from the thoughts.
Thoughts, yeah.
Thoughts are
Only you
everything.
transcend, you get into samadhi.
Right.
Right. So, so when the cause